Hey, peace and love, family. This is your girl, Doc Star, and I want to talk about spiritual awakening and what led you to cultivating your spiritual awakening and working on your path and yourself. And, and talk about what happened with me and my life to lead me to my spiritual path and that type of thing. I know that most people in the spiritual community that when we were children we realized our magic within inside, but we had a chance to cultivate that magic and all of the beautiful things that we're made of. So for me, what led me to start to work on myself and cultivate my craft and all of that type of thing involved my children. So about 8.5, 9 years ago, June making it 9 years. What happened with me involved my children, and it wasn't. What happened to me wasn't uncommon. This is something that happens to a lot of families, and it's very unfair. So, about 8 years ago, I was on my seventh child, and when I was giving birth, marijuana was found in my system, and you all know what comes after that. So they threatened to take my children away. And of course, as a parent, this was very devastating, very just, throw you off guard, have you in the wind, don't know whether you're coming or going. And as I said, my seventh child, I've never left the hospital without any of my children. So when this first kicked off, to be told that you can't leave the hospital, your baby has to stay, you can leave the hospital, but the baby can't leave the hospital. I was just stuck, and at this time I didn't have my spiritual knowledge. I didn't have knowledge of self. I was putting all of my belief in religion and in God and in that type of thing. And so I felt betrayed. I felt like, how can you do this? If I put my belief in you, how is it that these people have this type of power, to tell you this type of thing? This is my child, my cells, my DNA, my womb, like sex is sacred. What do you mean I can't take my child? So this was just, mind blowing. I was upset, and when it's happened, I quickly start to denounce religion. I start to denounce God. I start to denounce everything that I trusted. I was like, hell no, this is not right. So, I was just like, I have to figure out something, because I just couldn't believe this, So when I was told that I couldn't come home with my child, I had to wait and let my mom pick up my child, and all of this stuff, and and things like that. So right away there was a court date. Quickly, everything had moved very quickly, because they were like, oh, we're going to remove the children out of the home. Do you have any family members and all this and that? So they just come in your life, don't know what's going on, don't care what's going on, don't care how they're going to affect the children. They feel like their way is better, and you as the birth giving mom don't know jack. And that's some crap. So I had to get my children with my mom. I had to call my mom. This was just, embarrassing. I felt like, they made me feel like I was abusing my children, physically, or they made me feel like I wasn't feeding them, or all of this type of stuff. I'm like, all of this about some marijuana, when we all know the long history on marijuana. We know that it's been a long war to get it legalized. It's now legalized in some parts of the world, and we know that it's been history where they've had cannabis as a pharmaceutical and all of this type of stuff. And we know that the system just they do all the wrong, but then they tell people what they can and can't do. So we just know how they is when it needs to be someone telling them what to do. So I feel like all this about some marijuana, like what in the heck? Like I do what I have to do by my children. I know that I'm a great mom, and I'm not talking about by society standards. I'm not talking about by another person's standards. I'm talking about by my own standards and my standards by my children, and our relationship. I know I do what I have to do, even in the eyes of them, they had everything that they needed to have. I was even sending them to their brainwashing schools at the time, not even understanding, that part of this whole ordeal. And so once I got to court, I had a judge who had a huge reputation of not playing the radio. Like she didn't play. She was known for removing kids. She was known for, taking no crap. And so I was very fearful at the time. At the time, I couldn't see the silver lining in my situation. There's always one. So I just couldn't see mine, and at that time, I didn't know that my ancestors and my higher self was stepping in to see fit that I go through my journey and, I get to the light at the end of the tunnel. So this judge, when she started reading over my paperwork, and as I'm standing there, and all the people that's that works in that whole setup, they were in the courtroom, and she looks up and she says, "Why are you here?" So I think, like, is this a joke? Why am I here? Can I leave? This is what I'm thinking. And she goes, "Why are you here? This is not about marijuana. This is about you needing to learn self-love, take a break from, giving birth right now, take a break from relationships. This is about you learning self-love." And that might sound like to some people like, what does she know, but for me, she was dead on. I did need to take a break from things. I did need to take a break and look at myself. I really did at that time in my life, We all have that. You always have to take a break, and look at things and, readjust things and redo some things and detox some things out of your life. So she was telling me that, and I was like, wow, like, yeah, that's true. So my children were also there, and when my children were there, and she talked with my children, and she was blown away by that, and she was like, wow, and they're intelligent, how do you do it? You're a single mom, how do you do it? And I'm just thinking, hey, I do what's in me. Nothing they had to tell me or anything like that. I vowed in myself that, I'm going to make sure these little people be all right. I'm going to make sure these little people, have the best life that they can have. So that's what I vowed to myself, and I do what I have to do with my children. It's me and my children, against the world, whether that be for our happiness, our survival, whatever. So, that's what I had, it's so like, hey, I'm a mom. I do what I have to do. So right away, she denied what the caseworker wanted, and she was like, no, these children are going to go back home. And I was so ecstatic. Of course, I was grateful because they were going to try to have them move with my mom, and I could go visit them. I'm like, visit them? What the hell? I'm not, toxic to them. What do you mean I'm smoking weed? I'm not beating them, abusing them, or this and this and that. No. What do you mean visit them? So I just had a newborn baby visit. I'm not going to not be without my child, my newborn, just as I never was without any of them. I'm going to see to it that my newborn is taken care of and everything like that. So that didn't go, long. She suggested for them to be home. And as I said, I was ecstatic about that. I was very happy for that. And I still had to do like a whole year though of checking in and, dropping urine and doing parents in class and all of that. Dropping urine, all that is illegal anyway, taking your body fluids and all that kind of stuff. But, we know how the system does. So I had to go through this for a long time. But thankfully, my children wasn't really emotionally damaged by it because they were home and they were in their familiar settings. So they didn't really know, I was going to parenting class, or I was going to, I had to drop urine to prove that I wasn't smoking or anything like that, and I had to keep a smile on my face, for them and just, deal with my pain on the inside, on my own time. And that's what I had to do. I was just, even though they were home, I was just still pissed. I was still upset. I was still like, how is this possible? I thought these people only step in, in real terrible situations. I mean, where kids, are really being abused and really need some help. I thought that these people stepped in like that. I didn't know that they step in on some of the pettiest things. A lot of the caseworkers are aware that, people argue and they do it out of revenge. A lot of caseworkers have, and CPS have admitted to me of also smoking marijuana, but yet they would come in and they would, try to chastise you for it. I've had supervisors admitted to me, but say, well, this is their job, this is what they have to do, but they smoke when they get home too. So you can imagine how pissed I felt to hear someone throwing this in my face, but this is what I'm being chastised about. And, like I said, the bigger picture at the end of the tunnel was my spiritual awakening for me to go, okay, I see what this was all about. But at that time, I couldn't see that. So, I was just still enraged, and I was just going through a lot of questioning within myself. And then I started to realize the power that I have in my life. I started to realize how in control of my life I am. I started to realize my faults and, what's not my fault. I just started to realize my power within. During this time in parenting class, I saw some terrible things, man. I saw cases that were far more tormenting than mine. They had to visit their children, and it seemed like they were in it for the same level of nonsense that it didn't require for the children moving out of the home. The system doesn't see how they tear families apart. Well, maybe they do see that's their goal, tear families apart, and the children are the ones that is affected mostly by this. I've seen a young lady come into the parenting building, and she wasn't even from where I was from at the time. She was visiting, in some kind of way she got caught up in CPS, and they gave her a baby to another family. And when she came to do the visitation with her baby, this baby had to be like 9 months, and he had some scratches down his jaw, and she started crying like, how did he get these scratches? And do you know, the other family told her that they were mosquito bites. And I was furious listening to this, because I'm like, since when do mosquitoes leave deep scratches down anyone's face or anywhere on your body? That's not a mosquito bite. And to just see this woman crying like this, and for the system to think whoever they placed this baby with was okay, it was just torture for me. It was just very hard. It was very unfair, especially in situations where you're talking about marijuana. It's really stupid. Just going through that was a very tough thing for me. And the more I went through it, and once I got clear of it, once my full year was up, and I didn't smoke, and I was going to parenting and all of that stuff right there, I finally completed it. And at the end, you come back in front of the judge, and you get like a little certificate, and they kind of do you like a little party, and have like pizza and stuff in the courtroom or whatever. And like, yeah, I'm just there like, okay, I'm glad I'm finished. I don't really care about none of this stuff, no pizza, whatever. I could throw my own stuff. Y'all just get out my life. And so I was happy, I brought my kids and all of that stuff, and it was over. Upon it being over, I was still going through all of these questions within myself, but I started to feel, a weight lifted off of me, because I was out of this situation. Finally, it was over. It was done. It's me and my kids. I could get back to my life. I don't have to report to anyone. But I had that woke something up in me. I was like, this ain't never happening again. Y'all not gonna come across me. You're not gonna come tell me about my children. So that led to, learning about what a birth certificate really is. It led to me learning about the straw man. It led to me learning about the system and how they work. Then it led to me learning about the spiritual side of things and the power you can have. I cannot even recall to this day how it came to me. About my first thing was learning about chakras, so I can't even recall how it came to me, but I was on the computer one day, and I don't know how, but I got to this site, and it was this lady named Carol Turtle, and she was explaining chakras, and when she was explaining them, it resonated with me, and I was like, oh, like, so that's what that intuition is. That's what these feelings be that I be having. That's what that gut feeling is. And so, of course, I was amazed, as you know, anyone, when you first found out about, you know, your chakra system and all of that type of thing. So I was like ecstatic about that, and I was like, oh, okay, wow, now I finally have something to tie this stuff into. And not long after that, I came across Alan Watts, a philosopher. He's been passed away, but I came across his philosophies of, you know, you being actually the soul and not the body, and you've always known, you know, you're an observer of your life. And so that was even more wonderful to me, because it resonated with my thoughts. It resonated with what I felt. And I was like, oh, this is like so true. Like, oh, you know, I was like, oh, I wonder if anybody else know this, you know, at that time. So I was so excited. So from there, for me, I had joined Facebook like 2012. I wasn't on Facebook prior to it being out. I didn't get on until about 2012. And so then that's when I came across the Kemetic knowledge. I came across, you know, learning about Egypt, because I had no knowledge of that. When I would see it in movies, you know, I thought it was just a Arabic thing. I didn't even know that it was our culture. I didn't even know any of that at the time. So finding out this in depth, it was just exciting. So I went through that level of knowledge, and, you know, just learning more and more about that. And then, of course, started learning about diet and eating right and everything like that. And then I want to level up more. And then, you know, just starting to learn about witchcraft and, you know, so forth and so on. You know, all of this beautiful magic is one big melting pot. So, you know, it's amazing. The journey is amazing. And I just encourage anyone to stay on your journey, level up on your journey, continue to practice your craft, you know, continue to do your research, continue to go within, you know, continue to meditate, continue to do whatever it is that you're doing for your spiritual works, you know, because it's amazing to know your power. It's amazing to know who you are. It's amazing to know that no one can hold power over you, regardless of whatever, you know, state the world is in. It's amazing to know the power that, you know, you bring to this whole ordeal. So that is what happened for me. That is what led me on my spiritual path, you know, messing with my kids. You know, my mama don't complain around with nobody's children, okay? So that's what really woke me up. That's what had me like, oh, y'all don't woke up a beast. You got me messed up now. So, you know, feel free to make your comments, subscribe, like, share your story. Maybe I'll do a live, and, you know, we can all share our stories. This is what this all about, you know, sharing our stories, encouraging one another, you know, and just, you know, becoming a great big spiritual family, and, you know, putting forth our powers. So thank you, peace and love, and you all have a good day.